everyone, it's Haley, and today I'm going to be doing my July wrap-up. So despite the fact that I ended up doing my June wrap-up early last month because I was leaving on the last day of June and had to have videos pre-filmed, I still didn't really end up reading a ton this month. I ended up finishing a total of 6 books, but I have been just insanely busy lately and kind of overstretching myself. I've been doing a lot of things trying to improve my YouTube, and on top of that, I've had assignments due for the class that I took in France. My final assignments are all due, and then on top of that, I have started a new job and I've been working more hours than I normally would at my old job that I had before. So I've been trying to kind of get back into the swing of things, but I've been really busy, haven't been getting much sleep, I've been really tired. So yeah, and that's kind of why, like, right now this video is going to be pre-filmed because I'm planning on pre-filming most of August videos and taking a little kind of hiatus. So if you wanted to, like, I will have videos going up, but they're going to be all pre-filmed. But if you wanted to kind of like get into contact with me during my hiatus, I will be on all my other social media because I can't give it all up. So I have Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram, and Goodreads. So all of that will be linked down below for you guys if you want to keep up with that. But yeah, that has nothing to do with this wrap up. I'm just gonna get into what I read in July. So the first book that I read in July, I actually ended up finishing in June, right before I left for my trip to France, and that book is My Life Next Door by Huntley Fitzpatrick. You guys have seen this on many a monthly TBR. I just kept on putting it on there and I just was never really in the mood for it and never picked it up. But I finally picked it up this past month and I really loved it. I thought it was really great. I enjoyed the story. It wasn't what I was expecting at all, which was kind of nice and refreshing, but I really enjoy Huntley Fitzpatrick's writing. I think it's great, and this one is about a girl who, she's really conservative, and the guy who lives next door, their family is crazy and it's huge, and it's kind of her getting involved with their family, despite what her mother would like. So I did really enjoy this book, and I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. After that, I actually read a book on the plane to France, and that was The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. I ended up giving this book 3 stars because I wasn't a huge fan. I really liked it and I thought there were a lot of quotable moments, but at the same time I found it to be a little bit confusing and I just wasn't really a fan of the translation, and it was just kind of, I think some of it was a little bit lost in translation for me. Then after that, I didn't read anything for my whole trip in France. I just was busy touring France and doing other things. But when I got back, I ended up reading Jonathan Unleashed by Meg Rossoff. I have very mixed feelings about this book. I was sent this for review by Penguin Random House, so thank you so much to them for sending this to me. I had requested it and I felt like it was something that I would like because it has dogs in it, but I didn't really end up liking it that much. So Meg Rossoff, you may recognize her name. She's the author of How I Live Now, which is a dystopian YA novel, and this is her first venture into writing for adults, and I just felt like it wasn't very successful. It was really confusing. The characters were kind of overly quirky, like to the point where it didn't really make sense, and I just didn't really feel like there was much of a plot going on. I don't know, I wasn't really a fan of this book at all, so it was a little bit of a disappointment, and I ended up only giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I think 3, maybe 2.5, probably 2.5. I'm gonna go with 2.5. So after that, I ended up picking up Cure for the Common Universe by Mckay Heidecker. This was actually sent to me by the author when he saw I included it in one of my videos, so thank you to him for sending this to me. I ended up really enjoying this book. The whole concept is that the main character is finally going to go on his first date with a real live girl, but before he can do that, he's actually sent to video game rehab. So it's him trying to get out of video game rehab. I do have a review for this book that I will link down below, as well as any other books in this video that I have reviews for. They will be linked down below for you guys as per usual, but this one I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was tons of fun, a really unique concept, and I loved all the little references to video games in there. I'm not huge into video games, but I did get most of them. There were probably some that went right over my head though, but yeah, for the most part I think I got most of it, and I just felt like it was a really fun book, and yeah, I just enjoyed it. Don't know what else I wanted to say, but apparently I was going to keep going. I'm just going to stop now. Then after that, I finally ended up finishing The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. This book for some reason took me forever to read. I started it in like the beginning of June and ended up finishing it like near the end of July, so it took me me a really long time to read, but that being said, I did really enjoy it. I ended up including it in my recommended reads for children's classics, which I finally did. If you haven't seen that, link down below as well. But yeah, I thought it was a great story because it's kind of different than the typical children's classic in the fact that usually the protagonist of a children's classic is a girl who is just kind of this too good for the world girl, and she's just too wholesome and sweet for adults to understand, and she has this like imagination that can't be beat. But this book kind of, the protagonist really defied that convention, especially in the beginning, because she's kind of a brat and you have to kind of learn to love her as she's kind of learning to like soften up kind of all of her hard edges, if you will. But yeah, it was refreshing and I did really enjoy this book. Then after that, I ended up picking up My Lady Jane by Brody Ashton, Cynthia Hand, and Joni Meadows. I loved this book so much. It was just so fun and funny, and it was kind of that like undercut humor that isn't really in your face, and I just loved the story. I love the historical fiction bits, and it's really a story that shouldn't work, but it does, and it's just absolutely amazing. I loved this book so much, and it was kind of exactly what I needed for a little pick-me-up, which was awesome, and I'm just hoping that the Lady Janies, the author of this, will write something else, because I would read it and I would devour it. Like, write something else about, like, royalty. I would so devour it. Oh my god, like, you guys know I love royalty, and just this book was so unique, but it was so good, and I have a whole review for it, which will have much more articulate thoughts than I'm giving right now, so just go and watch that. I obviously gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Then the final book that I ended up reading in July was Exit Pursued by Bear by E.K. Johnston. I was kind of participating in the booktubeathon, not really. The only 2 books that I ended up finishing were My Lady Jane and Exit Pursued by Bear, so I kind of participated, but I wasn't putting a lot of pressure on myself because I did have a ton to do, but I was happy that I did end up finishing 2 books. So this one is super short, and it's a retelling of Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale, which I was very intrigued by because I love that play and I read it recently, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. Well, I read it in April, so fairly recently, so it's fresh in my mind, so I really was interested to see how this storyline would translate into a YA book. And honestly, I think it's very, very, very loosely based on The Winter's Tale. Like, I felt like most of the plot things were not from that. Like, the character names, like Hermione and Polly and Leo, those were things that were taken from The Winter's Tale, and there were a couple of things that happened in there that were in here, but for the most part, it wasn't really following that storyline, which was, I understand it's kind of like a retelling, a reimagining, but I felt like it should have stayed a little bit more true to the story. I knew immediately, though, that it was a retelling of The Winter's Tale because the title, Exit Pursued by Bear, one of the characters is, like, exits and they're pursued by a bear and then they're mauled by a bear, so it's kind of like The Revenant. But yeah, mixed feelings about this one. I'm just really happy that it's a Canadian author though, but I think I ended up giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So those are all of the books that I ended up finishing in July. It was a pretty good reading month. Like, I've had better, I've had worse. It was just kind of a reading month. It was whatever. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!